Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Bretonnia rides out to meet their foes today as they face off against the vampire counts in the shadow of the golden monolith up in the frozen north. So we have myself is going to be leading the vampire counts, and we have Alari H is going to be leading the Bretonian forces. So for Bretonia today, we do have a lot of peasant mobs, so we have 5 of them kind of spread out on this front line, and we will have a couple of spearmen at arms also in support to kind of mix things in. But we do have also a lot of peasant bowmen. We have 2 fire arrows. Actually, we have 3 fire arrows, and we have 2 pox variants. So a lot of fire damage, and always very good against the counts. And then the pox arrows will help with that cav engagement as well. And speaking of cav, there is quite a bit of cav for Bretonia, as we do have 2 Knights of the Realm on the far flanks, and then we have some heavy hitters in the middle, where we have 2 Grail Knights, very, very good shot cavalry with magic damage to boot. And we have the champions of Quenelles, the ROR Questing Knight, who have armor piercing and bonus versus large, which will help against the Blood Knights of the Vampire Counts. And we do have the Fey Enchantress as well, who is going to be bringing Awakening of the Wood, Earthblood, and the Mist of the Lady, so she will have a -5 attack, melee attack debuff to the surrounding units, and she will do a Mortis Engine effect on top of that. And then we also have Gotrek, nice little unbreakable bonus versus large and a magic damage dealer. So very strong unit, I guess, especially against the counts as well, because there isn't really anything that can focus him down. Anything that is large themselves, so he'll do very well in that engagement. But now, speaking of the counts, let's go over what they have to combat the Bretonian cavalry. So we have a triple zombie front line, a little bit of shaft support, but otherwise we are going to have the Sternsmen, a very, very strong Graveguard unit. Does have regen. Not a uncommon sight to see them blasting through most matches that you see them in. We also have some Skeleton Spearmen as well, 3 of those. And then we have the Conixton Stalkers. They do poison damage. They are the Skeleton Warriors ROR, so very nice as well. So this is the poison source for the Vampire Counts, which will help in the cav engagements themselves, and that Spearman with that anti-large. We also have the Balefire Corpse Cart trying to kind of shut down that magic regen for the Bretonians, and we do have the Mortis Engine. Now, there is quite a bit of archers that can help focus it down, but the Mortis Engine does help just kind of melt through a lot of the peasant mobs if Bretonia does end up blobbing up around the Fae, so a nice Mortis Engine effect to combat that. And we do have double White Kings, both of which do have Scab Scrates, so they will help dealing with the archers on top of that. We do have Manfred von Karstein is going to be leading the forces. He does have Spirit Leech, Raise Dead, and Invocation of Nahek, as well as his one item, the Sword of Unholy Power, giving him a lot of magic reserves and magic regen. So a lot of magic coming from the Vampire Counts, but their kind of mobility units is going to be 2 Blood Knights and 1 Black Knight. So they will be a little outclassed by the mass of Bretonian cavalry, but we'll see if they're able to pick their engagements. They just need to kind of avoid getting charged by them and get the charges themselves. And they might be able to pull some things off, but they will have a little uphill battle dealing with the cavalry that the Bretonians have. And they do have more units as well. But that is the armies, so let's get things underway. As there's a little bit of repositioning. The counts do have a bit of the high ground right now, a little slope going down towards where the Bretonians have gathered, and they will be hugging the golden monolith, trying to at least focus, or at least have some kind of flank support, because there is quite a bit of units and they don't want to be getting surrounded and taking that unnecessary leadership debuff. So right now, just a little bit of positioning, as the Bretonians are very, very spread out right now, and the Vampire Counts are, again, just going to be hugging this top hill, and now some shots are starting to rain in from the pox arrows, though they are just going to be landing in amongst the zombies, slowing them down a bit. But yeah, a lot of shots that they don't necessarily need to be taking, though the peasant bowmen do have quite a bit of ammo, so getting rid of that chaff isn't necessarily the worst thing in the world. They just need to make sure that they do save some of their shots for these cav engagements, and kind of make sure that their poison and fire is going where they need to. But they are chunking through these zombies fairly quickly, and the counts do really need to keep their chaff units. They are only 100, but they are still quite valuable units, just as the peasant mob are. So the Counts are just going to be taking that shots as they do approach, and we do have some of the Knights of the Realm seem to be charging up the hill, getting a little slowed down on the Peasant Mob, but a nice capture rate though, going down through these pox arrows, doing a lot of damage. And now these Knights Errant are going to think against charging in. Another Scab Scrape going down on this other fire arrow, so that is pretty much 2/3 damage on 2 units, and they rout both of them off on just the Scab Scrape alone and the approaching zombies. So very good cast to open things up by those White Kings, and now these Grail Knights are going to be charging right up the hill, getting some charges off onto zombies, though again that is just zombies. They are meant to take that damage and protect the Sternsmen and the heavy hitters themselves. While the Vampire Count's mobility is kind of flanking around on their right flank, coming in on the left, as the Bretonnians do kind of pull back, as they do have a few of their cav units otherwise occupied, and they now will kind of start charging in as the Knights of the Realm, and these Blood Knights will get a nice charge off into the flank of them, but in come the Grail Knights as they get their charge, but the Blood Knights, seeing that, do pull out before they take too much damage, able to rout off these peasant mobs, and do a little bit of damage to the Knights of the Realm. But here come the rest of the units, and the Spearmen are very good at being able to peel them off, and it looks like a summon of zombies right into the middle of things, stopping the Knights of the Realm, and a nice turn and charge by these Black Knights and Blood Knights here, getting into these Knights of the Realm and Grail Knights, as Manfred himself is coming in to support. The Fae is over here as well, doing a little bit of Mortis Engine effect, but she does kind of want to help out this cav engagement, as it looks like we do get a Earthblood going down, healing up these Knights of the Realm, but we also get an overcasted Invocation and a Heck to count things off. And if we take a look at the rest of the engagement, this Mortis Engine is taking quite a bit of damage, as the Bretonnians are doing a good job of keeping their units spread out and making sure that that Mortis Engine effect really doesn't have any good targets to really engage in, while the Fae is forced to kind of pull back, as well as all of these units of Blood Knights are doing some very good damage to these Grail Knights and these Knights of the Realm, and they do get a charge off, but they are just charging into the Black Knights, and the Blood Knights now will get a pretty much a free counter charge, or at least one of the units will, into kind of the rear of these Grail Knights units, and Manfred is still here in support. These Grail Knights are starting to waver, and a nice summon in the rear, trying to really muck up these cav units. If we look off into the rest of the units, we do see that the Mortis Engine has gone down from the fire of these peasant bowmen right now, but the peasants are being pushed back. Gotrek trying to deal damage to the White King, though I think that Gotrek really should have been over here supporting this cav engagement. Vampire Count's doing a good job of kind of picking their fights right now, as the Blood Knights continue to cycle in and out of this engagement. The Black Knights just kind of mucking things up right now, just keeping a little bit of mass stuck in this engagement and allowing the heavy hitters of the Blood Knights to cycle in and out, and they are doing a good amount of damage so far. But we do have some fire arrows now coming back, as these peasants have returned. It is not the pox arrows that they wanted. The White King's doing a very good job of screening them out, as we see 3 of the peasant bowmen off on the far side, and some spearmen are trying to kind of push them back on that flank. So the Balefire as well stuck in, but it looks like Gotrek does have his sights on them, and we do have some mobility in the Knights of the Realm over there supporting. It looks like we have another summon of zombies dropping, I believe. Here they are, once again mucking up these Grail Knights, and Blood Knights just able to cycle in and out of this engagement, doing very well in the cav. They do have to be a little careful, as these Black Knights have taken quite a bit of damage as well, and the Blood Knights are sitting at about 50% on, actually both of them are getting pretty low. They do need to be a little mindful of that, as there is still quite a bit of cavalry, and the Fae herself with her own healing, but one of the White Kings is here to assist Manfred, who is still doing very, very well in this engagement, not taking a whole lot of damage, as he is able to avoid a lot of the focus fire. And speaking of focus fire, a lot of peasant bowmen right now, one unit being pushed back by the spearmen here, but otherwise they are trying to focus down this White King, get him down. It looks like another Scab Scrape. Oh, that was a beautiful cast right there, doing so much damage to these peasant bowmen and routing them off. And the other unit is going to be over here, so he should have another one of his Scab Scrapes up, and should be looking to cast that. Though it looks like the Grail Knights doing alright right now, but they are on the back foot by the looks of things. And that Fae really should be in this engagement. She does have nice resistance. She's a lot tankier than she does appear, though she is trying to, I guess, avoid the White King and Manfred, though at what cost, because with having her in this blob would have given a -5 to melee attack and doing a nice Mortis Engine effect to boot. as these Black Knights are slowly crumbling away, keeping these Grail Knights busy though, and the rest of the Bretonnian cavalry though, the champions of Quenelles and these Knights of the Realm are going to be routing, and it is just these spearmen who are anti-large, but I mean they are just spearmen. They're not really the best unit in the world to really deal with things, and the rest of the Vampire Count's army is slowly pushing the Bretonnian peasants off the field right now. The corpse cart is still online, still providing a nice little buff, but Gotrek is quickly hunting it down, and that corpse cart days are numbered. But these peasant bowmen for now are being shut down, and they are far from the support of the main cav engagement, which is pretty much going to decide the outcome of this battle, and the Blood Knights seem to have that upper hand, as the White King doing a nice little scab square, trying to clear out some of these spearmen as it does rip right on through. And here comes some Knights of the Realm getting a decent charge. I kind of a limp charge there, not really getting as much damage as maybe they would have liked. But now the Fae is isolated, and the Blood Knights are free to engage, as Manfred chasing off the last of these champions of Quenelles, making sure that they go off the field. Though it does look like they come back in the last second, but do rout once again, as they are right on the edge of the field, and Manfred should be able to handle that and push off the last of the mobility by the looks of things. It is just the Fae on her horse, and that is all that is left. Though some of the Knights of the Realm do come back, though there are only at, 7 models right now. I don't think they are going to be much of a threat to 2 Blood Knights who are 29 and 23 models apiece, and they still probably have a bit of healing left on top of that if Manfred hasn't used up all his winds of magic. But otherwise, the peasant bowmen all being pushed off the field, and it's just down to Gotrek and the Fae for the most part. This isolated peasant mob going to get charged by these Blood Knights and should rout them off almost right off the charge, and they do. And those Blood Knights will probably just kind of pull off right now, either try to engage that Fae as the Gotrek is coming in, as they do get a nice little charge off, doing some damage, and the Fae actually dishing some out in return, peeling off some models as they are down to 21, and Gotrek is going to be getting a nice little rear charge, but these Blood Knights will pull out and allow another unit to charge on in, waiting for the support of the Stearnsmen and the Coniston Stalkers to really just kind of wear down Gotrek. And I think the Stearnsmen and the White King will be just a little too much for them, as you just take a look at what the rest of the units are doing. Manfred just kind of making sure all of the surrounding forces are being pushed off, and there's quite a bit of chaff yet left, though, for the Vampire Counts, and they should just be able to bog down the remaining troops, well, I guess the remaining 2 troops of the Fae and Gotrek. Bounce power definitely in the Count's favor at this point, and I think the Blood Knights and Manfred have pretty much full control of the battlefield this time. Blood Knights knocking Gotrek to the ground, and they will be, looks like the Fae is wavering right now and is routing and shattering as army losses take the rest of the troops of Bretonnia, and now it is just down to Gotrek left, and by the balance power, it is saying he has very, very little chance. He does have some healing that he can get, but I mean, right now he is being poisoned by the Coniston Stalkers, and the Stearnsmen are just going to wear him down, and Blood Knights are going to be free to cycle in and out, and Bretonnia will concede. So take a look at the after battle report here. Very fun match, kind of pulling in all directions here. I mean, Spearmen at Arms getting 183 kills. I mean, for Spearmen at Arms, that is impressive, even if it was against zombies. But still, Mortis Engine did get taken out of the fight fairly early on, though that wasn't really that big of a loss in the grand scheme of things with just how Bretonnia had deployed. They were very spread out throughout the match, and there's, I mean, at most that Mortis Engine was taking maybe a couple units at a time, but otherwise Bretonnia did a good job of spreading out, though they did get very split up between their infantry battle and the cavalry engagement, which went very well for the Vampire Counts. Blood Knights 108 and 122, pretty much all of that was on these very expensive knight units. Grail Knights getting some chevrons themselves, 117 kills, not bad, but the Blood Knights just had the best engagements in that battle, coming in and out and really just getting the charges and taking none. That was very good jobs, and the summons were also very on point for the Vampire Counts, really blocking the charges, keeping those Grail Knights engaged in battles that they didn't want to be sticking around in. And I think, though, the Fae Enchantress on the Bretonnia side could have played that maybe a little better. She was out of those engagements. She really should have been supporting her cavalry. I know Manfred and that White King were there, but just being able to engage, I mean, even engaging the zombies would have provided that Mortis engine effect and that -5 reduction in melee attack, which may have been all it took to sway that cavalry engagement the other direction. But a very fun match, and that will be all she wrote for today, ladies and gentlemen. I do hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good one.